In this video, we are going to go over the idea of area and how to find it in a rectangle. And then in the second half of the video, we are going to go over how to find the area of a square, a very special type of rectangle. So without any further delay, let's get to it. We are asked to find the area of this rectangle. Now, what I'm going to start with is first by just giving you the area formula, and we're going to use it, and then we'll talk a little bit about why it works. What is area? Well, area is the amount of surface that an object or a figure covers. So the amount of surface that this rectangle takes up, measured in what are called square units. So we'll talk about what those are shortly. To find the area of a rectangle, what we do is we take the length of the rectangle, the longer side, multiplied by the width of the rectangle. Sometimes what people do is they call that the base of the rectangle and the height of the rectangle, and either one of these can be the base or the height. We're going to go with length by width in this particular example. So the area, A, is equal to the length multiplied by the width. So that's not just some x, we're multiplying length by width. We make that look like a little bit more of a multiplication symbol, and we'll do that with a dot so that we don't confuse it. So length times width. Oftentimes we see that formula written as A equals L times W, like so. So length times width. Well, in this case, our length is 4, and our width is 3. So 4 times 3 is equal to, and that would be 12. Our units would be centimeters squared, because again, we're finding square units, or think of it as you're multiplying literally 4 centimeters times 3 centimeters. And centimeters times centimeters is the idea that you're multiplying centimeters by itself 2 times, thus centimeters squared. So that represents 12 square units. Now, what are these square units, and why do we multiply length by width to find area? So now we're going to go over the why does this work the way that it does. Well, again, area we've defined. It's one of those things that mathematicians, or even pre-mathematician years ago, came up with and said, we want this measurement to be called area. And we want it to be square units. So how do we find those square units? Well, if we have 4 centimeters here, break these into 4 columns, like so, 4 equal columns. And then we have 3 centimeters there, so we'll break this going up and down into 3 columns, each a centimeter high. So each of these are like little 1 by 1 centimeter blocks. Well, how do we figure out how many 1 centimeter or 1 by 1 centimeter blocks there are? That's where this formula comes in. Keep in mind that area is the number of 1 by 1 square units that make this up. Well, I have 4 squares going this way by 3 squares going that way. So literally you have 4 columns of 3 rows each. So you could think of it as I have 1, 2, 3, 4 in each row, and 3 total rows, or 4 by 3 total blocks. So by the definition of area being the total number of square units, when we look at anything broken into square units, we see multiplication literally comes out of the problem, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3 times, or 4 times 3. Isn't that awesome? I think that's so rad. Into the next part of this video, we will be looking at how to find the area of a square using either the length times width method or something else on the other side. Check it out. And now here we are on the other side of the video where we're going to talk about how to find the area of the square. Well, a square is a special type of rectangle. It still has a length and a width. It's just that we can't tell which is the length and width technically, because in a square, all 4 sides are of equal length. So it does not matter which part of the square is length and width. So we could use a rectangle formula since this is a rectangle, and we could do area equals length. I'll do that in cursive now. Ooh, length times width, fancy way of writing it. So the length can be 5 and 5. So quite literally, we will substitute in for L. So think of that as L, and this is W. And we'll substitute in 5 for the length and the other 5 for the width. 5 times 5 is equal to 25. And of course, do not forget your units. We have square inches because we have 25 square inch blocks. Now, that's one way of finding the area of a square, literally thinking of it as a rectangle. Now, there's another way of looking at the area of a square, and this is pretty cool. Since you've got any square, I'll just draw like a square looking figure here. Let's call each side length S, right? Every single side length would be S. So if I'm finding the area of that square, we would multiply the length by the width, right? And the length by the width here would be S times S. So if I do S times S, that would give me S times itself twice. In other words, we are squaring S. And you're kind of seeing where the word squared comes from as an exponent, which is also really cool. So S squared is another way of finding the formula of area, again, because S times S, the same side lengths, are being multiplied. If we use that with this problem here, we have the side length is 5. So we would do the area is 5, the S squared. And actually, let me show you that as a substitution in action. So we would have the parentheses squared, saying any side length can get plugged in there. That would be 5 squared, and 5 times 5 is 25 inches squared. Very awesome stuff. One other bonus note to add on here, let's say that you were asked for the perimeter of this square. True that we could add up all 4 sides, right? 5 plus 5 plus 5 plus 5, or you could notice that in a square, the perimeter would be S plus S plus S plus S, or 4 S's. S added to itself 4 times is 4 times S. So if we were looking for the perimeter, in this case, that would be equal to 4 times the side length, which is 5, and that would be 20 inches. Now I know this problem did not call for the perimeter, but I thought as I'm making this video, let me show you another way of doing perimeter of this very special shape of a square. Awesome stuff.